Hello, everyone, and welcome to Geeky Geezers. I'm your host, Agent Boomer. This is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli.
Hello.
Happy Boxing Day.
Happy Boxing Day. Happy second day of Christmas.
Did you get Chinese food like you had originally planned, or?
I did not. No,
Oh,
we have so many leftovers. It's like I just can't justify getting, you know, carry away or whatever.
jelly
We have a
pig's meat
full
and whatnot,
fridge, you know.
just
Yeah.
whatever you were eating yesterday. I don't
I
know.
actually so for Christmas dinner we had a ham, a roasted ham, and ravioli. So I had ravioli for lunch, and then for dinner I made a ham and cheese sandwich on sourdough bread.
Oh, sounds fancy.
Yeah.
All right, let me say hi to the chat. We got Team Ghost Planet. I think you were first, if I'm not mistaken. See you guys at 9 p.m. It's 9 p.m. now. Daniel Heron, still sick. If I fall asleep, I'll catch the repeat in the morning. We're supposed to have a stream this Wednesday, but we'll see if the Birdman's feeling up to it. But we'll see. I was going to ask him what movie we're doing. Okay. Have a great weekend. Have a great stream, geezers. Okay. Yes, you too, Big Al. Not that you're having a stream, but just have a good night. Brian Gilmartin, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you as well. Good evening, Auditor Dread. Let's see, and that's it. And Al is liking your ravioli. He thinks it sounds tasty.
Yeah, it's a Christmas tradition, for us. And I don't know. Somehow I actually feel like the ravioli is better the next day reheated. It's just one of those weird things for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way with stuffed shells sometimes. I've had
Yeah,
those.
yeah. Because I think that between the boiled noodles and the gravy and whatnot tends to be some dampness that's still in it when it's fresh, especially if you've cooked it and then had it covered or whatever, and you end up with condensation. But then the next day, the cheese and the pasta just absorbs all of that. The sauce gets a little bit firmer. I kind of like that texture.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll be getting to Punisher later on. Team Ghost Planet Go.
Yeah,
Don't you worry.
we've got it on the thumbnail. I was kind of pleased with my thumbnail. I thought I did some good stuff on there.
Funny. It was a funny thumbnail. You put a jester hat on his top. I liked your Kevin Fig. What's his name?
Yeah, Kevin Feig, whatever it is.
Whatever the guy's name.
Everybody is doing that on their channels. Everyone who's talking about him. I don't know if it's Feig, Fig.
Ethan Van Skyver.
And then, Uncle Ethan's like, we got to be careful with our vowels, because if you say the wrong vowel, that could sound real bad. I'm like, yeah, but funny. that would peg him perfectly, wouldn't it? See what I did there? Peg him.
Funny. No, he was funny talking about his reaction. We'll have our own thoughts on that later as well. But
yeah, I didn't know that you'd seen that video, so yeah.
Good to see everybody. So, did you have a good Christmas? I know I was on the stream with you a little bit last night with the Discord.
Yeah, it was good. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't remember if I talked about what gifts I got because I was feeling pretty merry. Let me tell you.
What's the time of year for it, isn't it?
It sure was. Well,
what did you get for Christmas? What'd you get?
One of the gifts that I got was it was a 2-part gift. Really, it was a really nice brandy glass. Well, not brandy, whiskey glass. And on the outside it says, better to be full of bourbon than full of shit. And then the next gift I opened was an assortment of what do you call them? Whiskey stones. They're granite stones that are cut in the shape of cubes. You put them in the freezer, and then you drop them into your glass and pour your liquor over it. They obviously don't melt because they're stone, but they're as cold as ice. Yeah.
You think they got the idea for that from Roger Rabbit when I said scotch on the rocks, I mean ice, and Eddie said that, and so he thought that's a good idea. Let's make.
I've known about it for a while, okay. But you're right. That was the first time I'd heard of it. I don't know if they go back before that, so I'll have to look into it. But I also got. See, this is where Netter is taking advantage of my boomer memory because I had asked her to look for something for me, forgot that I had, and then she bought it for me for Christmas. It was the vintage collection Antok Merrick's X-wing fighter from Rogue Squadron. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. It was like a big box, right? And she's like, you asked me to get it for you. I'm like, well, surprise anyway.
Oh, that's funny. I had forgotten I had gotten a present from my sister months ago, and I'd completely forgotten it. I was looking in my secret spot and was like, oh, it's the MTV Hallmark ornament, where it's like the 90s MTV, where it does, dun, 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 from the 90s.
Right.
And it lights up and stuff. I said, oh, I forgot I got that for her. So she got an extra gift that I wasn't planning.
Kind of like National Lampoon's Vacation when he finds the gift he had that had been hidden for all those years up in the attic.
Oh,
in
that's
the regular
right.
place. Yeah.
I wanted to rewatch that on Christmas, but someone in my family had already seen it, so I went with on Christmas. Yeah, I went with the Santa Claus, the classic Tim Allen Disney movie. Remember that? Ever seen that? Yep. It actually holds up pretty well, I thought.
You know what's kind of funny is I actually watched a Corridor Crew video about you know what the Corridor Crew is, right? They're the computer graphics guys that like analyze different movies and pick them apart, and then they try to improve some of the ones that are really not good, like the Scorpion King in The Mummy Returns and whatnot. And they were looking at various Christmas movies, and one of which was that movie, The Santa Claus, that scene where he shaves off his beard and it grows back.
Yes.
And they were kind of breaking down exactly how it was done. And I mean, you kind of see how clever these guys are, because one guy will say, oh, they rotoscoped out the whole backdrop. And he's like, how can you tell? And he goes, well, look right here. And he points to the hair on his neck or whatever. And he's like, oh my gosh, yeah, there you go. And yeah, it's pretty clever. But I think the most interesting one was he looks at Die Hard, the scene where he throws the computer over the into the elevator shaft and the explosion comes up. I did not know any of this, but that elevator shaft was not a real elevator shaft. It was a, in quotes, miniature elevator shaft. It was full size at the top, but it's only about, 2 stories high. It goes down to like 2 feet wide at the bottom. So in order to, get it right, make everything look right, for example, they set off a real explosion at the bottom. But if the explosion raised up the shaft at normal speed, it would go way too fast because, your mind's eye calculates all those floors for its distance, and it would be almost instantaneous if it was real time. So what they did was, as soon as the explosion happened, the camera guy stopped filming. And this is a film reel. The film reel slows down as it, dies, but it's still recording. So it was literally slowing down as the flames were coming up, and it worked out perfectly. And I'm sitting there going, and even one of the guys, was like, I had no idea. That is amazing, Yeah.
No, that's cool.
And because especially in this day and age where everything is CG, sometimes you hear about some practical effect and you go, that is brilliant. And you couldn't have done it better with computer graphics.
That is what we used to call the magic of the movies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, don't get me. I am not condemning CG. Okay. I just happen to be the right tool for the right job. And
yeah.
Tom Connors.
Go ahead.
Well,
movies like
Connors,
Alita Battle.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you first. It's your show.
Alita Battle Angel. That's good CG.
It absolutely is.
That's very detail orientated. They they did a lot of work on that movie.
And a
Then there are
lot
other
of it
movies
was
like
well, a lot of it was you couldn't do some of those or
exactly,
get those
exactly.
effects without it. But Tom Connors was talking about how lazy so many people have gotten in Hollywood today. I don't remember what movie it was he was talking about where they had a shot lined up and there was something in the background that was anachronistic or would have messed up the shot. And he's like, well, we'll just paint it out in post. And the director had said that. Some producer walked over and said no. He took the camera and turned it 45-degree angle and said, film it again. I just saved the studio $10,000, $1 million or something like that. It's like, exactly. There's simple ways to make things a lot cheaper and have them look really, really good. And the perfect example is Ghostbusters Afterlife, which maybe hasn't made as much money as the last movie, but is definitely way more profitable because it didn't spend as much money.
Exactly. And I would like to see more movies like that. Smaller
Right?
budgeted, turns a profit, and are not these big, horrible extravaganzas. Because let's face facts, with the way things are now, Hollywood can't be gambling like that like they used to.
No, they
Brian
cannot.
Martin says, welcome. CGI has dimmed a lot of that movie magic with how cheap and overused it all is. Like I said, it depends on the movie. Some people do good CG and know how to use it. Other people, the CG's terrible. Like Marvel was always mixed. Like I remember in Captain America Winter Soldier, there was actually I thought there was some decent CG in that, but like Black Widow, terrible.
It is kind of reinvigorating for me the excitement I used to get at some of the behind the scenes SPFX specials that I used to watch, right? Because I used to watch all those special effects, how they did Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, all that kind of stuff. But now sometimes you see some of this stuff, and and Auditor Dread is getting to one of the points that I was exactly going to get to. That sometimes when you watch the behind the scenes of some of these films, you just assume that it's CG, and when you find out, no, that dinosaur was actually a full-on practical.
Oh, it was,
whatever. It's like, oh my goodness, and even in I think it was one of the later Die Hards, or I don't remember which one it was, but it was one that involved, like cars and chases and whatnot, and I think it was a scene where like a car jumps over a helicopter, some crazy ass thing like that, and you just assume it's CG. No, it was really done. And like in Batman, where they flip over the semi, it's like you assume that's CG too. Nope, they really did that shit. It's like, holy crap!
Which Batman?
The Batman, the one with Heath Ledger.
Yes, Christopher Nolan. This was a reaction, I think, to a lot of. There was backlash against CG around the time those movies were getting made.
Yeah.
Like, I remember Die Another Day, the Bond movie, overused CG, and I think the Bourne movies came out and embarrassed it. And I think directors were trying to get back to more practical special effects. That's why I don't think you had a lot of that in those Batman movies. I think they used it sparingly, which was the Nolan Batman movies, because I think they were starting to get a backlash to it. Now I guess we're back on CG again, but
again, I happen to be of the mind, right tool for the right job. I think there's some things that are either too dangerous to do in real life, or sometimes it's really stupid reasons. Like what was it? Jessica Alba in some movie didn't want to do a nude scene, so they CG'd out her clothes. It's like, that is the most ridiculous ass thing I've ever heard. But again, I'll always say, you have no way of knowing what someone has worked into their contract. But I'll tell you what, if I'm a director and you don't specifically have something in your contract, I am not spending $1 million to paint out your panties. Strip. That's what the role called for that you agreed to.
Well, that's what a certain Aquaman actor got into big trouble for, not agreeing to do a something scene which she was hired to do in a movie. But That's
Yeah,
you know who I'm talking about, don't
that's
you?
the least of her problems. She's got a lot.
That was a while ago. I think she had gotten sued over it, and I'm like, you shouldn't have given away the money you got in the divorce. You might
She's
have needed that to
dropping
pay up.
turds in every bed. Let me just put
Okay.
it that way.
I did want to make a point about Auto Dread, though. He was making a point that John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah.
He brought that up. John Carpenter's The Thing is my number one. I think it might have the best special effects I've ever seen in a movie. That guy was young. I think he had just been hired to work on those effects. I don't know how. Rob Bottin pulled that off. The effects in that movie are incredible. They're unlike anything I've ever seen.
I mean, there's the one scene where the guy's going to do the paddles on the guy's chest, and the chest opens up and chomps off his arms.
Oh wow!
And the in quotes stunt man was a guy who had his arms amputated, and they just put fake arms on him to be bitten off. Wow. And it's like, holy crap! That shit looks good, you know?
Yeah, that was a bad way to go in that movie.
It worked. It absolutely worked.
How would the crew of the Enterprise dealt with the Thing? I guess they sort of did with the changelings, but it wasn't the same.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I know we have to get on with the stream, but you didn't ask me what I got for Christmas.
What did you get for Christmas?
I got some video games.
Of course you did.
So, do you want to hear
some old ones or some new ones?
Some new ones.
Okay.
Well, actually, yes and no.
Both,
so the first I got was R-Type Final 2.
That sounds like word salad. What's that again?
R-Type Final 2. Okay.
That doesn't help. Are we talking about, blood types? Are we talking about astromech droids?
Have you heard of the video game R-Type?
Mm-mm.
Okay, R-Type.
That's where I start out lost. Yeah.
Okay, R-Type was a shoot 'em up, I believe, from the 80s.
Oh.
And they made sequel R-Types, and then during the PlayStation 2 era, they made a game called R-Type Final. But the fans wouldn't let it go. We want another R-Type. So the creator of that game, he got crowdfunding on, I don't know where, Kickstarter or some site like that, or Indiegogo. He did crowdfunded it, and they got R-Type Final 2 made. And it's technically not a sequel because it's like lost episodes from the final game. It's supposed to be like, oh, this isn't really a sequel because R-Type Final was the final R-Type. But if you want to play more of it.
Is it meant to be like, is it like downloadable content for the previous game or?
No, it's a fresh sequel. You can get downloadable content for it. And apparently he said that he's going to keep adding more stuff to it, and you'll be able to get that for free, and it's going to turn into R-Type Final 3. I don't know how that's going to work. That should be a fascinating thing when it happens.
I think the simplest way is something that a lot of games have done is where they put out a game, they have updates and so forth, and you play through them, and then you can export your character to the new game. So whatever history they had can carry over.
They've done that with games. They've done that. I remember having a Fire Emblem game on the Nintendo GameCube, and they did a sequel on the Wii. But if you brought your GameCube memory card over, if you'd beaten the original game, it would remember the stats from the returning characters for the sequel. I thought that was pretty clever.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, there was a lot of games where the sequels didn't have that, and I would literally recreate characters from scratch just to, in my own mind, carry over the continuity,
Brian Gilmartin says, I recently picked up Golden Axe for the Genesis.
Is that the old arcade game?
Yes, that was
two-dimensional
89.
where you throw the axes?
You're thinking of Gauntlet. Yeah. You're thinking of Gauntlet.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a similar sword and sorcery theme, but this is more like a beat 'em up where you're side-scrolling back and forth and beating up guys that look like a Conan movie. It's very Conan influence, but they close enough. I also got Bravely Default 2.
I don't know that one either.
It's a sequel to Bravely Default.
Well, I kind of guessed that, but
not to be confused with Bravely Second, which is the sequel to Bravely Default that was not well received. So they've now written that one out. So now it's Bravely Default 2. Essentially, what Bravely Default is, it's Final Fantasy, but it's more like old school Final Fantasy because basically the company they made Final Fantasies now in a different direction, but people still like the older Final Fantasy games, so they made this new series called Bravely Default, which is essentially Final Fantasy. It's has a different title based on the game mechanics. Okay, confusing enough. And the final thing I got was Turrican Flashback Collection. You know Turrican games?
Nope.
Okay, these were big games on the Commodore 64.
See, this is why whenever we talk about games,
these were PC games.
He's the expert. Yeah.
These were PC games back in the day. They were made for the Commodore 64, and then they were eventually ported to the Amiga and the Commodore Amiga. And
it's funny because I did have a lot of Commodore 64 games.
You might have played this one if you might have remember. You're like the cyborg-looking guy running around shooting creatures, and I don't know. And it comes with the ones for the Amiga, and it comes with the one for the Genesis and the one for the Super Nintendo. So that was pretty neat. And
the one Commodore 64 game I remember really, really enjoying. I think it was Commodore 64. Maybe it was a later game, but do you remember a game called Fort Apocalypse? No. Where you play a helicopter pilot and you shoot your way through an underground base? Okay,
no,
never mind.
It's okay. I mean, I'm sure it was good, whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, see, I know some games you don't.
I got another one. This one was a surprise, though. I've never heard of it. It's called NG. Apparently, it's one of these Japanese, I think. I don't even know what to say. It's beware the creeping horror, face the nightmares you thought were merely urban legends. It's it's like an interactive manga, I think. I'm probably butchering what this is. I'll let you know next week when I actually play it.
Have you ever played a game called Lode Runner?
No, but you know what's funny about Lode Runner? Lode Runner was huge in Japan. Did you know that?
I did not.
They loved it. It was a big hit over there. It got released on Japanese consoles over there, so you could get it on like your PC Engine over there or your Famicom, which is our Nintendo over here. And they were big on Lode Runner in Japan. Something about that game. But,
I played Lode Runner.
Not so popular over here, but big in Japan.
I played that game a lot in high school. A buddy of mine, I'd go over to his place and we would spend like all day on a Saturday playing it. We would, get some snacks or some sandwiches or whatever, a bunch of drinks, sit down and just play it. And we just go back and forth, just see how far we could get in it.
Cool. I'll send you a video later on how the Japanese received Lode Runner. There's a whole thing on it because it was huge over in Japan, which is odd because it wasn't a Japanese game. It was made, I think, over here, or maybe, or Europe, one of those two places. But I have played Super Turrican, the director's cut on my Super NT. What's neat about this collection is it gives me the Turrican games that weren't included on the NT. So I get the original cut of Turrican, which had less stuff in it, but it's a little more polished. And then I have the ones for the other systems and computer on it. So that's pretty neat. Angry Video Game Nerd plays classic NES games. I was watching a video of him playing Kid Chameleon for the Sega Genesis, which is a brutally hard game. And he wasn't in character when he was doing this, though. But let's see if I forgot anything. Bob Botten also worked like a madman. This is from the article what we were talking about earlier with effects. Stan Winston. But everything else was Botten, especially with the head spider thing. Yes, we love the head spider. And then you know what I was watching yesterday? I know we have to get the stories, but it's my stream. Anyway,
Agreed. I am not arguing at all.
No. I wasn't going to do a good old days today, but what I was watching
we kind of did, didn't we?
We kind of did with the effects. I didn't think about that. Special effects. We could just have a good old days with special effects.
Yeah.
I was watching the Ziggy Christmas Carol. Do you remember that?
I don't. Of course, I remember Ziggy, the comic strips.
There was
there
was a Ziggy Christmas special made that I grew up with, and for some reason, somebody put it on YouTube with actual commercials on it, and really? I turned it on, Ziggy's Christmas special, or it's like a Ziggy Christmas, and it says sponsored by Atari Games, and I burst out laughing. And it's just a funny little special. And of course, I keep thinking there's stereotypes in that you can get into like the Irish cop, and I don't know if it was a Jewish butcher or a Polish butcher. He kept going, "Would you like to buy a toiki?" A toiki.
I
And
wish
it was
people
very
would just
charming.
get
It
over
was
that
charming.
shit.
The whole thing was charming.
Nobody had a problem with any of that stuff.
I know.
And everybody used to just kind of pivot into those kinds of stereotypes, in their own lives just for humor value. It's not a big deal. It's not offensive. It's your way of saying, "Hey, I'm Italian,"
Exactly, and it's a funny little special. But I noticed that they were playing all these commercials. Now they weren't all commercials from the period; some of them were from later on. But
Sure.
remember the Folgers commercial, Christmas commercial with the I guess the son comes home for Christmas and he wakes up his younger sister or his niece and says, "Oh, I know how to get him up," and he makes the Folgers coffee, and they all wait, "And you're home," and it's this heartwarming. I mean,
it is.
granted,
I love that one.
It's just to sell coffee, but
yep,
you got the feeling that the corporations at least understood back then that people like now. I don't think they care. I don't think the companies make these goods have any clue what regular people are like anymore. There was another commercial where Santa cans are coming. Remember the Coca-Cola Santa cans?
Yeah.
When the Santa cans aren't coming, not this year and not last year. They were not there. And I think the opinion is you should be lucky you're getting cans of Coca-Cola at all. So I guess that times change, don't they?
Yep. And don't worry about this right now, but I'm sending you something in the private chat. It's a parody of that Folgers commercial that you should watch after the stream.
All right. I'll look for it. Because what is this, a Hallmark Christmas movie? This commercial? Stop. It's too sweet. And I don't want to pick on the family.
If you don't want the commercial to be too sweet, then check out the parody.
Private chat. Okay, I'll look at it after this.
In fact, I'm betting there's at least 2 or 3 people in the chat right now that know exactly which one I'm referring to.
All right. Okay, I'll have to look for it later. Yeah. Oh, well, we got news this week, don't we?
Unfortunately, we got some. Yeah,
It's not all bad. Some of it's kind of funny, actually, especially the Ghostbusters Afterlife stuff.
Yeah. I don't know what we can say that everybody else hasn't already. But
we're talking about it. I mean, we're going to talk about it this week. I didn't think we'd have any news stories this week, but apparently there are some. So,
well, I know the original plan was let's not even bother with news. Let's just, you had your plan for what we were going to do.
We're still doing that. We're doing that next week, regardless of news or not.
But you're like, don't even bother sending stuff, and I just kept sending stuff because it was all like, this is news. I'm going to send it. And if we don't go with it, we don't go with it. But yeah, Yeah.
Disney extends CFO Christy McCartney's contract through 2024.
Yeah.
What does the CFO stand for?
Chief Financial Officer.
It's in the article.
The person in charge of the money.
Walt Disney Company has extended Christine McCarthy's contract as Senior Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer by 2 years through June 30th, 2024. Yep. The 22-year Disney veteran, one of the top women executives in entertainment finance, has served as CFO since 2015. She oversees the company's worldwide finance organization, which includes brand and franchise management, corporate alliances and partnerships, corporate real estate, corporate strategy and business development, enterprise controllership, enterprise technology, financial planning and analysis, global product and labor standards, investor relations, risk management, tax, and treasury. She joins Chief Executive Bob Chapek regularly on Disney conference calls with Wall Street analysts following quarterly earnings. This is a quote. Christine's leadership has been indispensable during this time of disruption and transformation, and her impact reaches well beyond our balance sheet. She has been instrumental to Disney's growth and helped us navigate the most difficult days of the pandemic, said Chapek. Her expertise, judgment, and relationships are true assets of the company, and I am grateful to have her as a valued partner. Okay, so let's see here. So this might be good, huh? She currently serves on the board of directors of Procter & Gamble Company and FM Global and is a trustee of Carnegie Institution for Science. Mm-hmm. She was named multiple times to Treasury and Risk's 100 most influential people in finance and Business Insider's the 50 most influential women in science finance. Okay. And her quote is, I'll just read her quote. Okay. It is an incredible privilege to serve as CFO of this great company. I'm thankful for the opportunity and to continue working with Bob Chapek and the entire senior management team as we advance the company's strategic initiatives with an eye toward delivering shareholder value. Okay. What do we think?
Well, I didn't think too much about this, but then there are people in the industry who know way more than I do. I happen to be a patron of Kamran Pasha over on Patreon, and I just want to share real quick a little portion of what he said.
Mm-hmm.
What is especially interesting is that McCarthy's contract has been publicly renewed exactly 6 months in advance of its expiry. And she has been feted with a congratulatory press release and much appreciation in the trades, in which she is called one of the top women executives in entertainment and finance. Contrast that with Kathleen Kennedy, whose fate is still not confirmed by Disney. In the weeks since industry website Puck broke the news that Disney had allegedly had her contract renewed for 3 years, okay, maybe,
we haven't gotten official word on that.
Been no press release, no articles in the trades, nada. Okay, so that has to tell you something. Again, what is the role of the chief financial officer? They are in charge of the money. They are not in the business for creative reasons or for pushing agendas other than the agenda of making money, which is something that we've been hearing a lot from Bob Chapek, and a lot of what we were saying about this new CEO that's coming in too. So it's like, I think this is kind of like the big triumvirate. In fact, in his closing, Cameron says, to use a fitting analogy, Susan Arnold is the Emperor Palpatine, Bob Chapek, Darth Vader, and Christine McCarthy is Mara Jade, a trio of Sith Lords ready to clean up the corrupt Iger Republic and restore order to the Disney galaxy. Yeah, I think that even if we do hear that there has been some sort of extension for Kathleen Kennedy, she has been effectively neutered. She has zero power there now, because the power people that have taken over, and absolutely, Susan Arnold will be institutionalized after the first of the year. You know, Iger is out, completely out. You know, so we have a new, leadership at Disney that has to bring about changes. And I happen to be of the mindset that it can only be good changes because it can't get worse.
Gotcha. I want to respond to Brian Gilmartin. Considering how people are constantly falling upward in today's entertainment, don't count on Kathleen Kennedy getting fired anytime soon. Here's what I think happened. I think that statement's correct in that she failed upwards and got to where she was. She'd been there for years. You know what I'm saying? Like, she had been in Hollywood for decades before she finally ascended to head of Lucasfilm. But where is she right now? This, as Stephanie Janachek often says on her channel, where's Kathy?
And here's the other thing. You can be black-pilled by the whole idea of constantly seeing people fail upward. It
happens a lot even now,
but
though, in
there
other organizations.
Does come a point where you hit maximum stupidity and you cannot continue any farther.
I think that's where she is.
We saw it happen in politics. You know, who was absolutely certain to win the election, 6 years ago, right? Clinton was absolutely certain. She was so certain there were states that she didn't even bother going to campaign in, and she lost. She lost in a big way. Now I'm looking to the future, and I'm saying that I'm seeing the Democratic Party turning against the current administration, and we may actually have a current sitting president get primaried out. I don't know who they'll send against him, but it'll be an interesting thing. And it's not the first time this has happened. It happened in his previous administration, which was the Carter administration.
Oh, I remember. Well, I don't remember. I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
3,
yeah.
but yeah, I remember hearing about
No, no, no. And see,
that.
this is what I'm always saying. I'm old enough to know if you don't remember your history, you're destined to repeat it. And when I heard that, Brandon was taking over, I'm like, it's going to be just like the Carter administration all over again. And what's happened? Inflation's shot through the roof. Gas prices have shot through the roof. It literally is the Carter administration all over again. I remember the Carter administration, people. And I only bring up these political matters to say that the same thing is happening here again. Yes, I have oftentimes mentioned that contracts can protect people, but there's only so far that goes. There's probably something that is preventing Kennedy from getting, in quotes, fired. They probably have to keep her as long as she wants to stay, but that doesn't mean she gets to continually be in charge of things. Her job could be, we're going to extend your contract for another 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but your job is to sit in this desk every day and sign the papers we tell you to sign. No, no, you don't get a choice in whether or not you sign them. You will sign them, or you
but
will be
she,
in breach of
but
contract.
we've seen she does like the scheme too. So
Absolutely. And if
I don't know if
she's
she has
doing
anything else
something,
brewing.
and if she's doing something behind the scenes, and she's the one who's, for example, responsible for that Puck article or whatever, and she's leaking stuff to the media, if Disney has any way of proving that, they'll say, you know what? We had a non-disclosure. You are in breach of contract and you're gone. She's got to be very, very careful because the higher up you go, whether you're failing up or people or whatever reason you're moving up, the higher you go, the more knives that are out.
And also,
That's something you got to remember too.
the further you have to fall, I guess.
Yep.
So McCarthy is the Emperor's hand. Basically, Palpatine's
Absolutely.
assassin.
She's the one that signs the checks. The ones that signs the checks is the ones that have the power of life and death basically in a business.
Yeah, but I think that at this point though, Kennedy has to scheme. It's no longer. Now, I'm not saying that she's out. She might be out. It's not looking like she's popular over there, but we do know that she schemes. So, in fact, I believe this whole thing, the thing being renewed for 3 years, what I think might have happened was maybe the contract did get renewed, but didn't get renewed for 3 years, and now maybe this public announcement was to force Disney's hand to say it was 3 years. Now, I don't know,
but it's getting a lot harder.
On my part, I have no idea.
She no longer has the woman card anymore because if you have Christina McCarthy, if you have Susan Arnold over her, then who the hell is Kathleen Kennedy now? I mean, she has bosses that are women. You're nobody. In fact, Susan Arnold has the intersectionality of being a lesbian. So there you go. You can't lay claim to that one. So we're even more diverse than we were before Kathleen Kennedy. You can't cast any aspersions.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens. Disney should be interesting in 2022. Stuff should finally be coming to light, hopefully, about what is happening behind the scenes, at least who's in power and who's not.
Everyone keeps saying, I can't wait until someone writes that book because that's going to be interesting stuff.
It's interesting. I got a Secret Santa. We get gifts at the library. I got a Secret Santa gift on the guy who handled. You probably aren't familiar with Studio Ghibli. They're like the highest.
I'm getting more and more familiar with them. I'm hearing a lot more about them lately.
They're the Walt Disney Studios of Japan. They shut down a few years back, but they might be coming back now. But it's all there's art. There's chapters in there where the guy who was responsible for I think he was an American that worked over there for them and had to deal with Disney and all the stuff Disney was trying to pull early on with this. Like one of the things was you can't alter our films except to try and have them English dubbed, and Disney was adding music and extra dialogue. And one of the guys said, "Well, we had the director or the producer, and he came in here and he heard the stuff we did, and he just chuckled and did a nod or something." And it's like that's not confirmation that he was okay with what you changed.
Right.
It's like, well, we've already sent it to the distributor. It's the videotapes have been made. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And apparently Harvey Weinstein losing his crap on him or something. This was another chapter. It's just it's a wonderful. It's a dirt book, like things you wonder what was happening. Because I was getting into this stuff in the 90s, and you wonder what was happening behind the scenes. Yeah. And now there's a book now about what was happening behind the scenes in the 90s, and it may take 20 years for us to find out what was going on behind the scenes a few years ago. Do you understand? But
possible.
eventually that's going to come out.
Yep.
Oh, but it'll be interesting. Disney. I have to say though, I've never been a Disney file, like someone who was in love with Disney. I was always more of a Warner Brothers fan, and just to see Warner Brothers, I mean, I do give them props when I can these days, but they need to get their act together big time. It's not funny. But we're not talking about Warner Brothers Disney. We got Viacom to talk about.
This is fun. This is a little Schadenfreude for you.
Yeah.
We don't have to cover it if you don't want to. If you're uncomfortable.
What do you mean? No, I'm
Okay.
I'm not uncomfortable covering it.
Okay.
I want heads to roll.
Right?
It needs to stop, but we're here. Okay, let me read the article.
Yeah.
Viacom CBS has been accused in a federal racial discrimination lawsuit of stereotyping a former employee as a dumb Latina and denying her career advancement. And the first thought that popped in my head, at least they didn't call her Latinx, right?
Right.
I'm sorry. The employee, Patricia Senor, am I saying that right? Worked in the consumer products division from 2016 until 2020. She began as a director in consumer products planning for Nickelodeon. In the lawsuit, Senor says she faced rampant discrimination, including that her bosses initially didn't think she could speak fluent English. She further claims that she was fired for complaining about being discriminated against. At Viacom CBS, however, Senor was stereotyped as "quote-unquote" dumb Latina, prohibited from writing emails to her boss, consigned to doing clerical work and housekeeping, notwithstanding her having a Master of Business Administration from Columbia University, denied repeated requests for more challenging assignments, blocked from well-deserved professional advancement, subjected to unjust criticism, and when she complained about the unrelenting discrimination, fired in retaliation, the lawsuit says. Senor said that on the first day, a vice president she reported to, Richard Morris, had her sit beside him while he dictated emails for her to send to SVP, Andrea Fasulo, and other executives. The lawsuit continued that after a month, she was not allowed to email Fasulo directly what was described as minor grammatical error mistakes. Other consumer products marketing team members who sent emails with spelling and grammatical errors were not punished in the same way, if at all. The lawsuit continued. Senor adds in the lawsuit that she, along with many other, there's that word again, Latinx employees at Viacom CBS, were denied well-deserved promotions, passed over for professional opportunities, and made to do unskilled housework and menial work beneath their respective job titles. Viacom CBS did not immediately respond to the rap's request for comment. I expect if anything happens with this lawsuit, they'll figure out a way to project this onto the American populace. This is, it's our fault somehow this happened, right?
Well, it gets real hard. I mean, that's fine to say that in the media. You can say whatever the hell you want in the media because, whatever makes the narrative the media likes. That ain't going to help them in a lawsuit. The lawsuit's going to go the way the lawsuit's going to go, and it's not a good look for a company that's already really, really struggling. I sent you those numbers because I got into it with some people on the socialist medias. The way I came to find out about this news piece was there's a couple of people that I follow that just happen to be pretty like-minded with me, that are big Star Trek fans that can't stand what Viacom CBS has done to Star Trek since STD. And they were saying, they were basically saying the same kind of thing I was, Schadenfreude, whatever. And one person said something like, for considering how Star Trek pushes, intersectionality and diversity and, progress and all that kind of stuff, this is a bad look for Viacom CBS.
Yeah.
And someone, and see, you immediately said, yeah, you understood exactly what they were saying. It's not even an opinion. It is literally fact. It doesn't look good. You send a message in your show and then you do this in your company. And someone in the comments says, what does this have to do with Viacom CBS? And I'm like, who owns Star Trek, dumbass? Oh, well, that would be like saying, the same of, any other show that they do. And I'm like, yeah, so who said it doesn't? It's still a bad look. I don't care if Star Trek is the one, giving this positive progressive message or NCIS. Okay. The fact is Viacom looks bad and they have no point. They have no leg to stand on preaching at people, you're all istophobes. And then they're actually doing istophobic things behind the scenes. It's
Well, this is
hysterical.
typical. I remember. Do you remember the show Perfect Strangers?
Sure.
From many years ago. There was an episode where there was like some new senior management guy, and he loved Balky, and he gave Balky this nice promotion. Of course, Larry got a little annoyed because, of course, Larry didn't get a promotion, right? That was his roommate's name, right?
Right.
As his cousin.
Cousin Larry.
Yeah, cousin Larry. But then Balky starts complaining. It's like, all I've done since getting this job is get my picture taken for like photo opportunities and stuff. I'd like to do. I'm not actually doing any of the tasks I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so eventually Larry confronts him, and he actually has the guy that owns the paper hide, or the guy was hiding behind a corner. Maybe he just overheard, and he was saying, yeah, what is it that Balky actually does? And he says, well, and the senior guy who was acting all, how could I put this? Respectful of people from foreign countries. So I said, well, I could train him, but then in an hour I'd have to train him again, basically. And then he got called out for his bigotry, got fired. But this guy was acting like he was the non-bigot. Do you understand? Like he was giving this guy the promotion, and that's what's going. Yeah,
and this is the funny thing: people are calling it out now, but this is nothing new. People have been doing this forever, and I'll tell you. It tells you more about a person who takes that job, right? If you don't mind being tokenized, if you don't mind everyone looking at you and going, I know you are an inept boob. You only got the job because of the color of your skin, the accent you speak with, whatever. That's fine. But there's a lot of people out there with the same skin tone that are busting their butts to prove themselves. And you're taking their job, because diversity and tokenism is what it really is.
Yeah,
and it's terrible. But then on the other side of that coin, you hire somebody because you want to be diverse, and then you specifically treat them badly because they happen to be diverse.
Yeah. Yeah, no one's saying that bigotry doesn't exist, but this obviously is looking pretty nasty for CBS right now.
It's a bad look, and it just comes down to don't even try to preach at me when you're actually worse than I am, because you are what is a confession through projection? You're saying I'm a racist when I've done nothing of the kind. I don't care that your main character is black, because I didn't have a problem when Ben Sisko was the captain of Deep Space Nine. I don't care that your main character is a woman, because I didn't have a problem with it when Janeway was the captain of the Voyager.
I have a problem with the fact that the show just isn't particularly well written.
The show sucks, that you don't know how to write, and specifically you don't know the lore of Star Trek. You can throw in tribbles in the background and think you're doing some kind of good fan service. No, I have legitimate problems with what you're doing. And
like there's certain scenes that feel like they belong on an old CB. It's funny because then they have some of the writers from Gilmore Girls working on. And some of the dialogue scenes are like something out of Gilmore Girls, and it's like, this doesn't belong.
And I used to love Gilmore Girls, and I love that kind of dialogue.
Show.
Exactly, and I like that kind of dialogue in Gilmore Girls. I don't want that kind of dialogue in
Star Trek.
It's
a different kind of show. It's almost like I said, I did see Blackwood a few weeks ago. I didn't buy it. We have public libraries. You can just check them out there. Yep. They had an introduction for the director, and I was curious, and I clicked on it. And I almost felt bad for the director, because I think she was hired because, you're a female director of indie dramas. And I'm thinking she probably just wants to make indie dramas. She didn't want to do a big superhero action movie because that's not her forte.
Right.
And I think with a lot of these Marvel movies, they just hire them. We'll do all the action scenes; those will be directed by someone else. You can do the dialogue scenes, but we'll still put your name on it as the director. And
and another
it's so
thing is,
phony. I'm tired of it.
if you are just like you're an actor, okay, if you're an actor, despite what this world wants to tell us right now, you can play people against type. Okay, you don't have to have lived that experience in order to play it, because that's what acting is. By the same token, a director needs to understand what it is they are directing. And just because you've always done indie films doesn't mean you shouldn't also be able to do action adventure, sci-fi, whatever. But you have to understand what you're doing. The example I always go back to is Nick Meyer on Star Trek II. He knew nothing about Star Trek, but he took the time to look at Star Trek and go, oh, I get what this is. And he not only got it, but he translated it in his own mind. Okay, I see what the relationship between Kirk, McCoy, and Spock are. I get what, even though I don't get science fiction, I get the whole wagon train to the stars thing going on here. You know, I get the interplay of these characters. Oh, it's like a military. I kind of know the military. And he ended up actually building up the lore, you know, in terms of that kind of military and those kinds of things. That's why people look at Star Trek II as, you know, the best movie, because it actually it not only honored what went before, but elevated it.
He took the job seriously. This
Yep.
wasn't a quick cash grab. I'm going to make the best Star Trek movie I can.
Yep.
Even though he wasn't necessarily all that familiar with Star Trek when he was hired on. And he understood. He also understood, and he said this before in later interviews, that Star Trek is a very important part of modern popular culture. He was equating, in fact, the cast and crew of the Enterprise to classic characters like Peter Pan and the Lost Boys.
Yep.
He was making this point. That's how important these characters are. And he took that seriously and understood, you know, being true to these characters and what they were about.
And we also go back to Richard Donner with Superman. Verisimilitude.
He showed up to interview for the job running around the Warner Brothers lot in a Superman suit. That's how seriously he took Superman.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everybody. I mean, I think the Russo brothers, at least with those early Captain America movies, they understood Captain America when they were making that. And Jon Favreau got Iron Man.
And what happened with the Russo brothers? As things got more off kilter, they stepped away and they said, screw this. This isn't what we signed on for.
I think they're getting ready to pack up, aren't they? Or if they haven't already.
Yeah, that's kind of what they said. You know, it started with all the bullshit over the lawsuit. But it was very clear what side they were coming down on with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we covered this last week, Auditor Dread, about LeVar Burton's comments.
Yeah, he's a fuckstick. I don't even want to talk about him.
Yeah, we're kind of done. He didn't.
I mean, and everyone frickin' knows it. I mean, people that don't have their faces buried up their own asses know that that's a bunch of bullshit. Anybody who ever actually watched a fucking episode of The Next Generation knows that. Especially all these same assholes that are coming out and saying, you know, Star Trek was always woke. Oh, really? Apparently, LeVar Burton missed that message.
Oh, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I was just trying to fix my I'm not on camera, but my camera got dislodged.
Well, you don't want to knock that over. That's expensive equipment, right?
Yeah.
All right. Next article: Dark Horse Comics sold to gaming giant Embracer Group.
Yeah, and this one, I swear, I saw it because I saw this as a follow-up to something we had talked a couple weeks back that it was up for sale. It'd be interesting to see what happened with it, especially since we had just previously mentioned that Dark Horse had gotten back the licensing rights to Star Wars, you know, to write in the comics. So
where does Star Wars go now?
Well, it's still with Dark Horse unless something has changed.
Wait a minute. Why?
Okay, so I'm sorry. I misunderstood what you were saying. Dark Horse used to do Star Trek back in the old Republic, or Star Wars,
Star Wars
back in the old Republic days, right? And then Disney came along, and it moved, and they shat all over the EU, and they took Star Wars from Dark Horse and gave it over to Marvel, and they claimed that everything that Marvel did was going to be canon. But that died really fucking quick when the sequel trilogy pretty much died, you know? So none of that is canon. Plus, it's like I was saying before, you don't shit all over the EU and say all the books and comics are now non-canon and then start putting out more books and comics and expect us to accept them as canon again. Bullshit. And if it's not on screen, it's not fucking canon, okay? So now they're going back to Dark Horse Comics, and a lot of the fans were like, well, great. Dark Horse Comics is the one that gave us, you know, Dark Empire and the Old Republic stories and, you know, all kinds of really good stories. Let's see what they do now. But then we heard they were up for sale, and we're like, uh-oh, who's going to end up buying them? You know, and then there was talk about them maybe going to a movie studio or something. Oh, shit, is Disney going to buy them? I mean, I guess it doesn't matter since, you know, they've got the license to Star Wars anyway. What's the difference? And then we hear this. So I sent this to you, not even really understanding the implications of it, just knowing this was a follow-up to those previous news pieces we talked about. And then I said, you know, gaming giant. Well, surely the gaming expert that I know,
I'm not a gaming expert.
Well, compared to me, you are. The person that I know that I would go to with a question about gaming, I go and I'm like, so who is this gaming giant? And you're like, what did you say?
Wait a minute. Okay. It's been a busy week, people.
So you do know them.
They're THQ Nordic. Oh, okay. Interesting. You don't know who THQ Nordic is. Have you ever a game series called Saints Row?
I have never played it.
But they make the Saints Row games. The new one is people are reeling about, but they used to make some good stuff. They made the Destroy All Humans game, which is fun because you get to play an alien basically in the 1950s, and it's very kind of. Except he talks English like Jack Nicholson. He talks like Jack Nicholson, and he's going after. And you know, you're going after like the hillbilly farmers and stuff, and zapping them. And I forgot what he was doing with the cows, but they've done games. There were a lot of complaints over the last Saints Row. I'm sure people in the chat remember how Saints Row is now kind of going woke, whereas it used to be something that was more edgy and just like a zanier version of Grand Theft Auto.
Okay, well that puts some perspective then on this news piece.
All right, so let's read. Okay, Dark Horse, because I kept thinking Sweden. I kept thinking THQ Nordic was from Norway, but what do I know?
Right.
Anyway, Dark Horse Comics properties such as Hellboy and the Umbrella Academy are finding a new home. The indie comics publisher has agreed to be sold to Embracer Group, the Swedish video game conglomerate. The deal is expected to close in early 2022. Publisher's new owner, which has 9,000 employees globally, is touting the untapped potential of the Dark Horse library, noting that 159 of its 170 of its own properties have the yet to be optioned for film and TV shows. That's a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. Dark Horse has first look deal with Netflix, which produces unpopular Umbrella Academy adaptation for the 2022 season 3. I bet you ready money that part of this buying is so that they can make TV shows for streaming. I don't know this. I know you're thinking game company, they can use Hellboy, make a Hellboy video game. I think maybe.
I don't know. Their last venture with Hellboy didn't do so well.
I think they want to get into video games, to television and movies, because it's a lot easier than video games. Video games are hard to make. They're I don't know. I could be wrong here, though. Dark Horse says it has 300 IPs to mine, including properties such as The Mask and Time Cop, which became movies in the 1990s. I didn't know Time Cop was a comic book.
Yep.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Dark Horse CEO Mike Richardson, who founded the company in 1986, will remain at the helm along with the current management. The company said, "Yeah, that's an old story."
Until they decide to, yeah, they're there for the transition, and then they'll replace them. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No, we're buying the company for you. You can still run it however you want. Well, that sounds like a great deal. Oh wait, you want me out?
Right.
A week after they buy it. Oh, here we go. I love this quote. Listen to this. The synergies that exist with the Embracer network of companies promise exciting new opportunities, not only for Dark Horse, but also for the creators and companies we work with. Richardson said a statement. I've had a number of compelling conversations with Embracer CEO Lars Wingfors, and I'm very impressed with him and what he and his team have built. I have to say, the future of a company has never looked brighter. Take the money and run, because you ain't gonna be running the company. That's the old story about Atari, right? Who bought them out? Was it Milton Bradley, I believe, back in the day? And they
Something
told
like
Nolan
that.
Bushnell, the man who, in many respects, might be credited as the inventor of the video game and started Atari. They kicked him out not long
Yep.
after they bought it, even though they told you better run it any way you want. And then he went on to start a chain of restaurants called Chuck E. Cheese, which actually turned out to be pretty profitable. So he made out okay, but
So
Atari, as we know it, was gone after that. So, and I think Dark Horse, as we know it, will be gone in a few
so
weeks.
here's the thing that I need to, always kind of point out. Who is the audience? Okay, they are obviously doing a rah-rah speech. Yay, this is a great thing, and the synergies and the corporate speak and yada. But everybody who's working at Dark Horse Comics right now, who has any brains, and all the fans of Dark Horse Comics are going, okay, we'll see what happens. And we really do. I have no prediction to make here, but if I was a betting man, I'd say this does not bode well.
Age Boomer, from what I understand about Embracer, as they used to be THQ Nordic, they changed their name. Okay, that makes sense. The owner seems to be seems to be a base individual, according to EBS. The problem with Dark Horse is they don't own many IP. Well, I hope they're okay, because I was not a fan of what they did with what they were going to do with the new Saints Row, but we'll see.
Well, and see, this kind of leads into what I was just saying. This whole thing about, right? They only own a handful of IPs. Their best work was done on licensed IPs. He had there. Oh, he's listing them right there. Alien, Predator, Terminator, Star Wars. So they just recently picked up Star Wars again. I'm assuming they still hold that migrates with them.
I have a question. This is probably a dumb question. You're probably going to say no, but let's say they had an Aliens comic. Did they do Alien versus Predator? Could they base a video game off of their own comic book?
You mean now? Could Embracer?
If Embracer buys this, they have these comic books. Can they then, or does that still
again
under the watchful eye of Disney says nope, you can't do that?
A license is like a contract. Okay,
so it's only a contract for a comic book. They can't actually.
No. I'm not saying that. Okay. What I'm saying is, like a contract, you and I may not know all the details of what is covered in that. Okay, but yes. Licensing of products like a video game or toys. I know toys better, okay? When you buy a license, let's do it this way. If, for example, Mego wants to license characters from whoever the rights holder is for Happy Days, to do Happy Days, and they did this recently. There was a Chachi, there was Elvis. God, what is wrong with me? I haven't had anything to drink today. Chachi and Fonzie, they did these action figures. Their license is very specific to do 9-inch, figures with this kind of articulation and cloth clothing and whatnot. Because NECA could license to do a similar size but in different proportions with plastic molded clothing with more articulation, okay? And Super 7 could license to do 3 3/4 inch action figures from Happy Days. This kind of stuff happens all the time. So yes, oftentimes licenses are very specific. However, there are also broad licenses too, where we have a very general license to write Dark Horse comics. And this is just an example. I don't know this is the case. I'm just saying hypothetically, we have the rights to do, Terminator stories in the comics. Now this game company acquires them. The game company could then go to whoever the contact is for that license and say, hey, Dark Horse has the license to do these comics. Can we turn those comics into games? They might have to relicense, but they've already got like a foot in the door, so to speak.
Okay.
That
makes sense. Interesting.
But, yeah. And it all depends. I see. Actually, Terminator is probably a bad example because they're probably going, well, we're not sure what we want to do with Terminator right now. And we're not, and they don't have a license, I don't think, to do comic books right now. Nothing is happening with Terminator. So it's like, that one's kind of dead. I think maybe the better one would have been Star Wars.
Well, here's the thing, though. If they were to theoretically, I know what you're thinking. The Terminator licensed property is in shambles right now, but you could still make a game off of the property that's in shambles, and it might still be accepted by the gaming community as long as it's, has a good story.
Yeah, I might be giving them
stories now, and
I might be giving them too much credit. They might just go, "You want to give us money for something Terminator related? Fuck yeah, go ahead, make games, knock yourself out. We don't care what you do with it."
Nintendo back in the day, this was after License to Kill tanked and Timothy Dalton was out as Bond. They bought the rights to make a game off of the next Bond movie came out called GoldenEye. And I think they got a deal on it.
Yeah.
And then they made their GoldenEye game, and it was huge.
Yeah.
And it introduced Bond to a new generation. And maybe some of these old properties, maybe not so much in video game, in comic books or in movies, but if they could make a good video game out of it.
The kind of games that they're doing these days with the Unreal Engine
and the
Nanite and all that kind of stuff, holy crap, man. They could do, and the best thing that they could do would be to take a game like Terminator and give you the opportunity to play through the movie, play through those characters.
Yeah.
You could be, Sarah Connor, or you could be, who's the kid that comes back in time to save her, whatever.
Kyle Reese. They actually did try doing those back in the day, but they were hit or miss. They actually, a few years ago though, they did make a game called Alien Isolation. Sega made it, and it's kind of neat because it's about Ripley's daughter. From how Ripley had a daughter, and she goes out looking for Ripley.
Wow!
But she's old enough, and she runs into the alien on the station and stuff. And it's kind of a neat game because the whole game is you trying to outrun and hide from and do things to the alien because you can't even really kill it properly because, of course, it's the perfect killing machine. So they went that route, and it got a lot of praise when it came out. But they could do that with things like Terminator, or I don't know. We'll see. And plus, there are all the original properties Dark Horse owns too, like Hellboy. Right?
Yeah.
They could do.
I'll tell you. Movie. I mean, if they can do something with Hellboy, something's better than nothing, right? Because they're not making anything on it right now.
I didn't see the last movie. I heard it was not well received, but
no.
Okay, so it should be interesting. So yeah, that's THQ Nordic. Okay, I was wondering.
I will say this. We said this about Star Trek. We're going to be talking about it later on with Ghostbusters. Whenever you take something and you remake it or you reboot it or whatever, and it doesn't look anything like the canon, it's not gonna go very well. And that's what happened to Hellboy. Everyone that went to see it went thinking, oh, maybe this will be like the Ron Perlman movies. Nope. Everyone that was waiting for a third installment, sorry guys, this is a reboot and it's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean, Mila Jovovich was in it, so I was curious about that, but I heard it was not good. Hold on a sec. All right, there we go. All right, okay. Sorry, there was a bot in the chat. I was just taking care of it.
Oh.
All right, so next story is... And they interrupted the two thing. The Punisher gets a new Devil Skull logo for 2022, and you have in parentheses and loses the guns. This is from Bleeding Cool, and I think they do lean a little left, don't they?
Sure, they do.
Sound of it, but we have a Breitbart article, so we're fair and balanced here, right?
Uh-huh.
I'll read a bit from this. As we mentioned, we have covered increasing criticism of the use of the Punisher skull by police, army, militia, white supremacist groups, QAnon events, and Sean Hannity on Fox News. I'm sure a couple of those words just got me banned off YouTube. Sorry.
Right.
Even Trump Punisher pins have been popular. And then during the January 6th insurrection, not my words, at the Capitol building in Washington, many of the Punisher skull insignias were seen. This also followed Black Lives Matter protests and a focus on real and fictional police behavior, including the use of Punisher imagery by the police amidst calls for Marvel and Disney to cancel the Punisher as a character. Bleeding Cool observed that this may have happened already, and that there have been no published or solicited Punisher comic books since November 2020. We talked about this a while back, didn't we? Remember?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there was a collection of Punisher versus Barracuda, but that series was never completed, and it was initially postponed by the pandemic, but then abandoned altogether, despite completed issues having been completed. I haven't read these, but I think they were being well received, weren't they? What they were doing with the Punisher,
Well,
because that was not outside the eye of the other nutcases over at Marvel, right? But
keep in mind that the Punisher has its fans. And the people that are its fans are its fans. And the people that have a problem with it are not the ones buying the fucking comics.
Anyway, let me continue to read. In July this year, Bleeding Cool ran the news that Jason Aaron was to reinvent the Punisher for a new age, adding the headline story Jesus Saiz and Paul Azaceta, John Jason Aaron, and on Punisher No More. Okay, that's... Okay. And today we ran the official news that Jason Aaron, Jesus Saiz, and Paul Azaceta are indeed launching a new Punisher series in March 2022. And the Punisher, as featured, seemed to be sporting a different skull, one that Marvel has trademarked.
And they can have it because it looks like a friggin' vagina.
Can I have a question? Was the old skull not trademarked?
Don't know.
But even if something's trademarked, if someone, like, say, a police officer or someone at a protest or anything else wears that, that's not the company's. The company can't say they can't wear that. You can wear. I go into a grocery store. I can wear a a Captain Crunch.
The thing is,
t-shirt.
you just can't take that and then sell it if it's trademarked.
Right.
But you cannot tell me that I can't paint a golden arches on my back and walk around with it.
Okay. So in July this year, yeah, that's what I'm figuring. Yeah. So in July this year, okay, so we already read that. The Marvel trademark describes thus: the mark consists of a stylized design of a human skull with a horn design crossing the skull and extending upward from each side of the skull, with curved pointed tusks extending from and away from each side of the jaw area.
It's a vagina.
What? That description, if you were to read that in fiction, would you know what they were talking about? If this was like a description of the story. Okay, while the sign in the areas: bones, human skeletons, parts of skeletons, bones, skulls, human, and devil's horns, persons having and trademarking it for everything under the sun, including for this festive time of year, paper party favors, paper party hats, Christmas stockings, Christmas tree ornaments, and decoration snow globes.
They are spending more money trademarking this symbol than it's ever going to make them in their comics.
Oh.
Nobody gives a fuck about this character anymore. They're all saying this is not Frank Castle. And I don't know if you're coming to the part in the article where they point out that he no longer carries a gun. His whole trademark is going and shooting people. No, now he's got swords that he's never been trained in.
I see him in the image. Yeah, I just have one more thing.
So guess what? Now, in order for Marvel Comics to bring down the number of gun, violence events in the Marvel universe, the number of disembowelings and stabbings goes up by 1,000%.
Yeah.
I'd rather get shot in the head than have my guts.
Yeah, that's more humane. One of the things, I think it was even in the Thomas Jane Punisher movie, I liked the comment he made. It's not about revenge. It's when things get out of control, you have to present punishment.
Yeah.
Which I thought was an interesting view he had on things. But
or if as we've learned from a certain kid in Kenosha, sometimes you just need to know that there is that possibility as a deterrent.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe don't screw with the person running around with an AK.
So Punisher without guns is like Mario without mushrooms. I'm sure those will go next, right? There'll be a complaint. Let me see. Marvel took his Vietnam veteran past, his sidekick microchipped his guns and his iconic skull for what's actually going to take away his battle van and his Rottweiler Max and his guy. They're going to get rid of it all. Be cruelty to the animals, probably, right? He'll have a robotic dog.
This is just another in a series of decisions that they've been making over at that comic book company that just demonstrates why they're losing their shirts. I mean, so basically, really
then they came for the Punisher because my understanding was that the Punisher comics were not necessarily part of the mainline Marvel. They were more for mature audiences, I thought, and they weren't.
But my understanding is
like DC and Vertigo, kind of like DC and Vertigo, maybe. But
yeah, but even I suppose that's a good example because by the same token, yes, they are geared towards mature audiences, but they are still canon with the mainline stories.
Yeah. Punisher without a skull icon is just another vigilante. Also, Jerry Conway is basically the Bob Kane for Frank. He isn't the one who established the character like Mike Baron or Garth Ennis. Yeah,
right.
I have to say, I miss. One of the things I don't like about Disney now owning all of Marvel was before that happened, you started getting different lines of Marvel movies. Remember Marvel Knights movies when those were out? They consisted of Ghost Rider and the Punisher.
Yeah.
And I assumed at some point they'd bring Blade back and he'd be in the Marvel Knights series, like the darker, more adult Marvel movies, which we're not going to get now. But
yeah,
I love Punisher Warzone. It's that movie's a trip. Have you seen Punisher Warzone?
Oh, of course.
Yes. Okay.
I've got them all on DVD, including Dirty Laundry.
Dirty Laundry.
It's the fan film that Tom Jane's made. It's kind of a pseudo sequel.
Right. I have another Tom Jane movie that he was in after the Punisher. Is it Give Him Hell Malone, I think, or something like that? Have you heard of that?
Didn't know about that one.
I think it's another one where he's playing like a Punisher type character, but it takes place like in the 40s or the 30s or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just. And then so you don't like the new symbol?
No.
I don't think they understand this. People know what the Punisher symbol is at this point. It's like the Batman symbol. And even though they've changed the Batman symbol over the years, you can still tell what a Batman symbol is. So if people still want to wear the old Punisher symbol, you're doing this new one's not going to stop them from wearing the old Punisher symbol.
Exactly.
It's like trying to get rid of the red pill in the new Matrix movie. People are still going to use that analogy.
That's exactly right. Not to mention that now they've also... One thing that they didn't cover, because of course the morons writing these stories don't know shit, is that the whole story is he's gone to train with the Hand, and it's like the Hand's the fucking bad guys.
That'd be like him going to train with the mob that shot up his family, right?
Right, exactly.
Why is he going to train with the Hand? Wait a minute, that
because fuck sticks. That's why.
Oh. And now he has swords, right? And he's gonna hack people up. Is that better than shooting them? Is he not going to kill anyone anymore? Is he now the family-friendly Punisher?
I don't know.
They don't like the Punisher. Let's be honest here. They don't. I don't think they like that character. They're going to try to neuter him.
Well, here's my problem. If you don't like the character, fucking get rid of it. Sell it. Kill it. Stop making comics of it. I mean... Put up or shut up, Marvel Comics. Yeah. Shit or get off the pot.
Because I had the idea with the Netflix series that were being done, that was supposed to be the older Marvel series, kind of like that Marvel Knights thing. You'd have like Jessica Jones and Daredevil and Punisher, and they were skewed more adult than the stuff that was coming out from Disney.
And it sounds like they're all migrating over to the current MCU.
I saw something on YouTube. Someone had a clip. I think, does Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, show up on Hawkeye? I have a question.
I don't know about that, but yeah, they are casting.
I think I saw him pop up. And
because, damn it, I haven't seen any of this shit. And I don't have any plans.
So I have a question for this, though. Does that mean, is this the Wilson Fisk Kingpin from the Daredevil series? or is the Daredevil series an alternative version
I think
of the Wilson
legally
Fisk?
speaking, they have to be different. They
So
can't
it's
be
just
the
like
same.
is that like a multiverse version? So that's like
Yeah,
the multiverse version of Wilson
yeah.
Fisk, who looks just like him
Which
for
is
reasons. Yeah,
again
no,
the
I'm
whole
just
fucking stupidity because, well, actually, no. Let's be fair to the Disney Marvel multiverse. So far, we have not seen anyone from an alternate universe playing an alternate version played by a different actor, right? Because throughout the Infinity Gauntlet story, all the time travel, all the alternate histories and all of that kind of stuff, it was just the same actors, you know, interacting with, you know, the same actors, right?
yeah.
Um it's only in the Sony multiverse where you have different actors playing roles. So it could very well be that, and I'm forgetting the names of the actors, with the exception of uh,
Andrew Garfield and
no. I'm
Tobey
talking
Maguire.
about the one that played Fisk, the one that used
Oh
to play Gorn in CSI or
no, I know who
in
you're talking. Law and Order SVU.
no, wasn't
Law and Order
SVU. It was
Special Victims Unit.
no, it wasn't Special Victims Unit. It was the
Vincent
other one.
D'Onofrio is his name, so there you
Vincent
go.
D'Onofrio. Thank you. Yes, if Netter was listening, she would know what we were talking about. But yes, Vincent D'Onofrio. He is playing a Kingpin, possibly from a different universe, just the same actor. And it's the same thing with the guy playing Daredevil,
Charlie Cox.
Charlie Cox, the guy playing Punisher too.
Okay.
Although that hasn't been solidified yet. My understanding.
I don't
is
want
they're
them to
still
bring
in
I don't
negotiation.
want them to bring because it's going to be the Punisher with the swords and working for the hand. They'll give
Well,
him the new logo. That's what they'll
no,
do.
he's already said if they're bringing him over, they got to be true to the character. If not, he doesn't do it.
Good.
And he's working that into his contract.
Good. Hopefully someone can stick this out. Punisher first appearance was Amazing Spider-Man 129. Yeah, he started out as the villain in that comic, I believe, right?
He absolutely
Someone Spider-Man
did.
was trying to stop.
He clearly was a villain. And see, this is the thing that people tend to forget. You see these characters as heroic or, you know, anti-hero type characters. And I'm talking about the Punisher and Venom and some others, but all those characters start as villains in the comics. You know, even your what is it called? The Suicide Squad. They were all villains.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Captain
they
Boomerang.
need to have that kind of progression before you can get them to a non-villainy, you know, place. But they don't know how to tell stories, so fuck them all.
They don't understand that not Ezra Miller, but the audiences would have loved the Flash movie years ago.
Yeah.
There's always been a market for the Flash. People know who the Flash is. He's referenced almost as much as Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. They could have done a Flash movie, made it fun.
Yep.
Had Captain Boomerang in it, maybe some other villains. It would have been, but no, we have Ezra Miller.
In a lot of ways, it should have had a very similar feel, at least in the beginning, to what they did with the Shazam movie. It should have been kind of lighthearted. And then as it goes along, it can get a little bit darker until you get to the Professor Zoom, you know, death thing, you know.
Interesting. Oh, Auditor Dread has a point. Jackal hired Punisher to kill Spider-Man, but of course it was a misunderstanding. Hawkeye was a villain too in his introduction. I didn't know that. Did you?
Oh, I did. I had totally forgotten because we're talking back in the 60s.
Yep. Interesting.
Or maybe, no, it was farther back than that. It was like the 40s or 50s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's going back a ways.
All right. Well, I'm not interested in this new Punisher. No one else will be. This comic book will fail like all the other Marvel comics. But somehow Marvel Comics stays afloat for I don't know why.
Well, because they're not in it to make money from the comic book.
They're in it to keep the copyright.
To keep the characters and the IPs for the purpose of making movies. That's all it is. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Okay, on to more interesting news. On to Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen this 4K set? What it looks like? It looks pretty sweet. I don't.
I'll be honest with you. I was seriously considering. The problem is the one thing I really like about this 4K thing. It comes with this book that has been out of print for a long time.
Oh, really?
And I'm looking at that going, But 4K, in order to watch 4K, you got to have a special TV. You got to have a special drive. I don't have those things.
Well, no, I'll explain this to you. If you have a 4K player, I believe, correct me, I believe it will still play on your regular TV.
Oh,
In fact, I have an Xbox One. You know, I do own one 4K Blu-ray because my sister got me the last Planet of the Apes movie. She got the 4K version.
Oh, okay.
No harm, it came with a regular Blu-ray.
Sure.
I'll test it out for you, just because I don't want to say specifically, but I do think you can play a 4K Blu-ray on your TV. I don't bother with 4K because I don't have a 4K TV, and I don't know if there's any point to me ever getting one because I can't actually see in 4K. I have a mild astigmatism in my eyes, so it's not. It's
so what it comes down to is, did I want to repurchase the original Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, some episodes of the real Ghostbusters, which I just recently got, all the ones that are available on DVD.
Oh, is that what's being included in the set on those extra discs? Okay.
Some of them.
And like a best of?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And I also heard that there's going to be some episodes of that old Ghostbusters cartoons that wasn't owned by the same company.
No, wait, no.
If that's true, that's even worse.
No.
For this, the purposes of this movie.
Oh, wait, you listened to the same stream I listened to, the Ethan Van Sciver thing earlier. Ethan was talking about this. He was kind of joking.
Oh, was he joking about that? Okay.
He was joking because he was trying to like really stick it to Paul.
Okay. Because if that was the case, I would have been like, oh, that's like pretty
doubly
shady.
Insulted. We'll put like the live action Ghostbusters from the 70s. That has nothing to do.
Which I don't think is available on DVD anywhere that I've been able to find.
You can catch them on YouTube. Did you know that? I was trying to find
I
out
wouldn't
what
be
this
surprised.
Thing was. It's not my cup of tea. It's got a giant gorilla in it, but
I did watch it when I was a kid.
Oh my goodness, the 70s.
That was the 70s. Saturday morning. This was before the Ghostbusters were the Ghostbusters. You know, this was a very different kind of Ghostbusters.
Separate words, right? It's Ghosts and then Busters, whereas Ghostbusters.
It's hyphenated like Spider-Man. Yeah.
Right. But but I'll read from this article. Looking to get all the Ghostbusters films in 4K in one place.
But what we know for sure is there is one thing that absolutely is not in this collection.
Yes,
this ultimate collection.
Well, I want to read this is from a blog. Yeah. Actually, let me give credit to the author on this. It's from, you can check it out. It's D-Rez. Oh, let me rephrase that. Are you looking for all the good Ghostbusters movies in 4K in one place? Ouch. Then Walmart has just the thing this coming February, okay? We spotted the first over Ghostbusters News. Walmart currently has a listing for this gift set, which is missing a particular movie. Unfortunately, Paul it's funny, my stupid Mac word processor recorrected it, and now it's Paul Figs. As I'm reading it. Okay, Paul Figs.
Add that one to the pile too.
That's what his name is now. It's Paul Fig, like Fig Newton. Okay. Ghostbusters Answer the Call doesn't look to be included in this $88.99 gift set. Do you know what popped in my head when I saw that? You know why it's not included? Because they need to sell this thing. And people are on the fence and are like, well,
we got another bot, buddy.
Oh my goodness. Why am I getting so many?
Oh, you're popular.
Is that good? Where's the bot?
I don't know.
Where's the bot? Hold on. I'm interrupting.
Well, we have to because we got to take care of this stuff.
Oh my goodness. Let me go ahead and hide user from channel. Will that do it?
It should, yeah.
Okay.
You might actually have to remove the comment though, too.
Well, I'll do that in a minute if it's still there. Your dreams. I don't know what he's saying. It's a robot, right?
That took care of it. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway,
don't read it out, dude. I mean, it could be something nasty that could get you, you know.
You mean if I read it out and then suddenly the channel gets
it could. Like, you don't know.
A communication for a YouTube bot that now says, "Oh, it's like." Anyway, what was I going to say? What was
at the same time, but he beat me to it.
Okay.
No, I appreciate it, Annette. Thank you for keeping an eye on things. What was I saying? Ghostbusters. They need to be able to sell this box set. This is not a cheap box set. I mean, I think for what you get, it's it's well priced because 4K
Yeah.
Blu-rays tend to be more money, and you get a lot of extras with this. So I think it's a fair price for what you get, but it's still
Yeah.
not cheap.
No.
And
let's face
you're
it, that
not-
box shaped like the ghost trap, that's kind of cool too.
Honestly, this is probably because the set focuses on the original Ghostbusters universe and Afterlife. Throwing in a reboot wouldn't make a lot of sense. For what we can tell, the collection includes Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, Ghostbusters Afterlife, Making Ghostbusters booklet, Collector's Ghost Trap box, a case with 2 additional discs, possibly extra features or documentaries. I have to say, I've never liked how they 20th Century Fox packaged the Planet of the Apes movies, because you can get all of them in a set, but they should really keep the classic ones in their own set and put the new ones, the new trilogy, in its own set. And maybe you can forget about the Tim Burton movie and forget it ever happened, and we just don't include
Did
that
they
one.
actually do that?
They did. In one of the sets, they included all of them, including the Burton movie. It's like, I don't want to see the Burton movie.
Well, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. That's kind of stupid.
And I like both movie series, but they're very different from one another. They shouldn't really be in the same set. They're their own thing. So
exactly.
And
and that's my whole point about this. It's an ultimate collector set of a specific line of stories.
Yes.
If you choose to reboot it and put it outside that line, you should not expect to be included.
That in the movie sucked. Okay, I'm not sure what the 2 discs in the 4th case will be. We speculated that them being documentaries, but it's too hard to tell due to the low resolution of the available image. It had better not be a complete set of Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters, because I'm going to call BS on that right now.
Well, it would kind of be a waste, because there's obviously way more out there than 2 discs worth. Even in 4K.
No, but Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters was a limited series made after the original run that focused mainly on Slimer living in Janine's apartment. And I have a suspicion it got made because parents groups complained about the actual Ghostbusters show. It's not the worst thing ever made, but it's not the Real Ghostbusters. It's mainly like a skit show with Slimer and shenanigans he gets into in Janine's apartment. It's not really, as memory serves. I was not happy with it as a kid. But it looks impressive. And even if you don't want to spend that money, you can get actually a Blu-ray set of all 3 is coming out for actually very reasonably priced. You can get Afterlife and Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2 with digital copies.
Yep.
It's still coming out on DVD too, so you want to just get the DVD of Afterlife. It comes with a digital copy as well, and I'll probably get the regular Blu-ray that comes out, because I already have the first 2 on Blu-ray. I'm just going to get the Afterlife.
I was just going to say, I've already got multiple copies of some of them on DVD. I'm just going to get.
It's a neat box set though, and I get how some people like to buy stuff for the collectibles. But Brian G. Martin, skipping the 2016 Ghostbusters sounds like karma for how bad that movie was. No one buying a Ghostbusters collector set is going to want to get the 2016 reboot. The whole reason they made Afterlife was basically an apology for that last movie. Think about it. If you recall, it's almost reminding me, but even with Star Trek the Motion Picture, people had problems with it, but it doesn't ruin Star Trek.
Right.
And even director Nicholas Meyer, when he made Star Trek 2, he said, I have to give the director credit. He did pioneer things that that did help with the making of this movie. So he wasn't even picking on Star Trek the Motion Picture. But no one likes 2016. That's a disaster. Who would buy Ghostbusters 2016 at this point? Sony understands it will not sell in this collection. I own a copy of 2016 because they gave it to me, because I was uniting all of my digital movie accounts under Movies Anywhere, and they gave you a few free movies with it, and one of them was Ghostbusters 2016. And I've debated, maybe I should just ask, can you please just remove that from my collection, my digital collection of movies?
I see.
Get rid of that. Because it was like an added incentive, like you can get your iTunes and your Vudu and have everything combined with one account. You understand? And they gave you free movies to do it.
That's kind of funny, though. They have to give the damn thing away.
Yeah, basically they were giving it away. Extreme Ghostbusters would be cool too. Go Team Ghost Planet Go. I've been catching that on Hulu. But the story doesn't end here.
No. So, as one might expect, there's some Raylos.
No.
I mean, fans of the 2016 movie, I guess there are 2 or 3.
No, I was not expecting this. And I don't
People
understand
that
why
actually
they are
appeared
still...
in the movie actually probably are fans of it. And the director is probably a fan of it.
How
And
is
they're a little
anyone?
upset.
How is anyone still harping? This upset them that this movie failed. They can't get over it. This is something they can't get over it.
Look, any actor, any director who has any degree of self-awareness knows when they put out a piece of shit. Okay, what did Holly Berry say when she went to get her Razzie for Catwoman?
Yeah.
And I want to thank Warner Brothers for putting me in this piece of shit or something like that.
No,
she knew full well.
Michael Caine, I think, got a Razzie one year. He accepted it with grace. I mean, actors do this. They understand. Murphy's Law can be effective movies. Sometimes you're just in a turd. Sometimes you write a bad short story and get vilified in workshop. You know, you as an artist, you're going to make bad stuff every so often. It's not the end of the world. Admit it, move on. But we haven't gotten this here. There are people that still insist that this is...
And to not be self-aware of it, to not accept it and move on, is just being a petulant fucking child.
Okay. A very diplomatic sounding Paul Feig called out Sony and Columbia Pictures over an omniscient in the studio's forthcoming Ultimate Collection of the Ghostbusters movies. What's missing? While the 8-disc box set included the original Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, and this year's Ghostbusters Afterlife, did not include the Feig-directed Ghostbusters from 2016 starring Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Leslie Jones, and Kate McKinnon. In his tweet addressed to Sony Pictures, Feig wrote, "I know this must be a mistake. We do have a lot of fans, and Bill, Dan, and Ernie were in it, and it won the Kids' Choice Award for Best Feature Film the year it came out. So I guess this was just an oversight." Are you kidding me? Dan Aykroyd hates this guy, or at least he doesn't like him. Maybe hates a strong word.
And as everyone has pointed out, since that movie came out, they were in it. None of them wanted to fucking be. And every single one of them did it because they were contracted to do it. They had no fucking choice.
Gotcha.
In fact, there has been a lot that's come out that this current Ghostbusters Afterlife wouldn't probably have happened without 2016 for a number of reasons. So they probably said, yeah, we'll do the cameos or whatever. We'll do the contractual thing just so Sony will allow us to make a good movie.
Is Paul Feig getting any work? I feel he just needed to make a headline. It's ironic how Sam Raimi takes full credit for saying Spider-Man 3 was his fault, even though it was Sony's interference. And I agree with that. Yeah. I do think that was a lot of that had to do with Sony. But, you know, he admits he probably should have done more to fight. Lots of directors throughout history admit when they make a bad movie. And lately, now you say you made a bad movie, you're
but honestly, it goes beyond that. And I think that there's a lot of things that people have said and just the surface level of how stupid we all know this is. But again, I want to go back to Cameron Pasha. He put out a commentary about this. And if you indulge me for a second, I want to read an excerpt of that.
Sure.
He said in Ghostbusters 2016, Feige is guilty not only of insulting the beloved Ghostbusters franchise, which is a shoddy, demeaning film, he is also responsible for the last 5 years of terrible woke movies made to score points with stupid people rather than paying audiences. The travesty of The Last Jedi could not have been possible without Paul Feige, whatever his name is, first pissing all over Ghostbusters and then telling fans they will drink his rancid urine and like it. His arrogance and utter contempt for the audience inspired Rian Johnson and other pretentious filmmakers to follow suit in their own egregious attacks on good storytelling under the flag of subverting expectations. Feig is single-handedly responsible for the pain and suffering fans have endured in the theaters since 2016, when faced with perpetuating a cinematic atrocity of such mind-boggling proportions. A normal person would recognize that they made a mistake and put it behind them, never mentioning it again. But Mr. Feig can't let go. Just like in 2016, he wants us all to acknowledge that the shit sandwich he served us was delicious and beg him for more scraps, like a modern day Oliver Twist. May I have another, sir? Paul Feig is now expressing outrage that his disastrous Ghostbusters 2016 is not included in Sony's Ultimate box set, along with actual good movies such as the original Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, and this year's wildly entertaining Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm sorry, Mr. Feig. You failed to destroy the beloved franchise despite your best efforts. Sony knows you screwed up and lost them millions of dollars and nearly destroyed an incredibly valuable brand. Your efforts to push a poorly written girl power comedy to replace the heroic men who saved New York City from a giant marshmallow man created a tsunami of bad movies and nearly ruined all of popular culture. Basically, Kamran is putting all of this at his feet. You're pissed off about, name your franchise you don't like. Was it the Star Wars sequel trilogy? Was it Star Trek Discovery? What was it? All the bullshit that we've got, and even the way Marvel is going now. You can blame all of that on Ghostbusters 2016. That seems to be the flashpoint where it started.
He is still getting work. He did a simple favor a year later, but to be fair, or a couple years later, that could have already been in production. But he did Last Christmas, that Emilia Clarke movie where she was, I think, dating the guy from Crazy Rich Asians. Do you remember that movie that came out? No. He did that one, and he's doing some movie called The School for Good and Evil, which comes out next year. So for all I know, this is just to get his name in the spotlight so people start talking about him.
It could be, but unfortunately, all it does is demonize him more in the eyes of anyone that A, would contract with him going forward, and B, go to see his movies. You know, his only choice is to keep doing stupid girl power movies, because then maybe the purple-haired weirdos will go see his movies.
But that's not an audience that pays any money. Instead, they stay at home and
that's all the audience that's all the audience he can get now.
Oh my goodness!
And therein lies the problem. Now, I was just looking at the most recent numbers, and they're starting to wind down Ghostbusters Afterlife's time in the theaters. But even last weekend, it still did pretty decently, even as they're starting to pull it out of various studios. It's probably not going to make as much gross as the 2016 movie, but it made head and shoulders more profit than 2016 because they did not spend as much money on this movie. Plus, one thing that you can't look at as clearly as box office sales is merchandise sales.
Oh, yeah.
And over the past year, they've been selling merch hand over fucking fist. I mean, between the success of the Proton Pack and the Neutrona wands from Hasbro, all of the re-release and Plasma Series action figures and Ecto ones, they're reselling real Ghostbusters toys. They're making classic character versions of the real Ghostbusters. If you know what I'm talking about, the real Ghostbusters were Egon and Ray and all of them, but they didn't look exactly like their real life counterparts, and they had different costumes, and it was a little more stylized. They have released action figures in the style of those real Ghostbusters, but made to look like, you know, the guys in the movies with the tan jumpsuits and so forth. Kind of the way we kind of all wanted back in the 90s, you know. But yeah, and people have been buying this stuff hand over fist, and it's just selling like hotcakes. So that's where the money is, people. I've always said this. I don't care what a movie does in the theaters, you know, because it stops making money when it leaves. What matters is rewatches, resales, licensing, downloads, DVDs,
home video sales, yeah.
Home video sales,
yeah.
All the toys. And if there's no toys to sell, yeah, you're kind of sunk.
And they had toys for this movie.
They had toys for 2016. Nobody fucking bought them.
There was a funny clip on Red Letter Media where they had the guy open up a box, and it was the Melissa McCarthy character from Ghostbusters 2016, but like with like a sticker on it for Ray from Star Wars. Like they were trying to rebrand the Ghostbusters 2016 as like, which actually, considering how well those have been selling too, that's not that funny. But
Exactly right. I have said though on previous streams there was one piece of, I guess you'd call it merch, that I did get from the 2016, and that was the tie-in book. The book that is the catalyst for the story of the 2016 that the two girls were supposed to have written together about ghostbusting.
yeah.
I bought it just because I was going on the impression, well, alternate universe, and Ghostbusters pretty much does deal with quantum realities and stuff like that.
Right.
I said maybe there's some lore there that I can pick up on. I'm not entirely certain. I did buy it secondhand, so it's not like the movie company made any money.
Right.
But the open, how books usually have someone that does a prologue or an intro or whatever, and it's the I don't know the movie, I haven't seen it, but the character who I suppose is like Peck from the original movie, the one that is trying to shut them down and disprove them, writes the introduction. And it is a character that I didn't believe in ghosts, but then I saw the proof and now I believe in ghosts, and you do well to do so too. And on the surface, that sounds really good. But when you read it in her voice, it's just terrible. It's like, you're a fucking bitch, and I don't really want to continue reading the book that you're setting up because you're such an asshole. I mean, the characterizations from the movie make it into this book, and I'm like, this is not going to be a fun read.
Why? This is a thing. We're going to be seeing this a lot more with a lot of female characters in movies. The bitch character. We saw it with Faye Valentine on the new Cowboy Bebop. You're going to be seeing a lot of this.
And this
unpleasant.
is the problem. This is the problem that we keep running into with this, right? Because every time you don't like one of those characters and they say, well, you're a
misogynist.
It's like, no, she's just a fucking bitch. Okay. If I was a misogynist, I would not have liked Ripley in Alien. I wouldn't have liked, I don't know, Lara Croft. I wouldn't have liked, Wonder Woman, for crying out loud. I mean, name any number of female heroes, and I'm totally all for that. Even supporting characters, whether it was Lois Lane in the Superman movie, or it was Karen Allen's character in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, these are not your typical, oh, woe is me, help me, I need, they probably could take pretty decent care of themselves, but they are, of course, the secondary character in someone else's movie, But this is what it comes down to. It's writing characters that people can appreciate. In fact, you're always going to hate the asshole character who only makes themselves look good by making everyone else around them look like shit.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a male or a female. We're calling her a bitch, but if it was a guy, we'd think he was an asshole too.
Oh yeah, exactly. That behavior wouldn't be tolerated. I want to read quick what Artificial Joni has to say here. Fig is regional Swedish dialect for coward. It's pronounced differently. The E is like the E in help, and the I is like the I in fist. Fig. Okay. That sounds kind of like Swedish. Fig.
Oh gosh, and the way that's described now, I'm hearing it in Andre's voice from Midnight's Edge. But yeah, no, funny. that actually makes. But I'll bet you he probably doesn't even pronounce it that way. I mean, my family doesn't pronounce Pacelli. They all say Pacelli because they've Americanized it.
Of course.
But the other thing that I was going to say though is I posted up on the Star Wars group on MeWe an old memory from the year that The Force Awakens came out. Duracell put out a Christmas commercial, because buy Duracell to power your lightsabers and whatnot, right? Yeah. And it was the kid. I mean, the commercial's even called, Last Hope on Christmas morning or something like that. And the mother hands the lightsaber to the son and says, "You're our only hope." And he's got to go save his sister, right, who's being taken away by stormtroopers. And he comes out and he goes, "Hey." And she turns around and she goes, "What took you so long?" And she says it in that bravado kind of way. And then she uses the force to push the stormtroopers away. And he throws her the lightsaber, catch. And she catches it. And he goes, "Follow my lead." And they go back to back, right? And I'm telling you, when I first saw that, I'm like, if this is what Star Wars under Disney's going to be like, I'm all for this. Well, unfortunately, that was absolutely not what we ended up getting.
That's probably what the people
Duracell got it, but
no, the marketing team said, "Oh, this is what Star Wars is going to be like. Disney has it. They're going to make it fun again. It's not going to be about, Anakin's fall. It's going to be about heroes battling the bad guys and being cool and everything."
But that interaction between the boy and the girl, right?
Yeah.
He's saving his sister, but only insofar as she needed him to bring her a lightsaber. And then they're going to fight pretty much as equals. But he's the older brother, so follow my lead. You don't get the impression that he's talking down to her, other than the fact that he just happens to have more experience. Exactly. Right? I mean, and you see that kind of a team up attitude. And it's like, you don't have, he's not making his sister less to make himself more, right?
No.
She's holding her own just fine without making him look like an idiot. And this is like a 1-minute commercial.
Yeah, but that's not what we have now.
Not at all.
And I don't know how long it's going to take for this to burn itself out. It should be an interesting.
But like Conrad says, it's all Feig's part. It's all because of Feig.
Awful. And he's still getting movies, which is, I don't understand. Maybe.
Well, we were talking about the whole failing up thing before, right?
Yeah. Going on to this kind of hit me a little bit too. Granted, I have not seen this movie, so I'm only going by this review, and this is over at Breitbart. It's the Kingsman review. Franchise betrays itself by going soft and woke. I'm going to read a little bit from this. Who removed Matthew Vaughn's balls? The guy who gave us the beautifully antisocial and inappropriate Kick-Ass, Kingsman, The Secret Service, and Kingsman: The Golden Circle is now serving up the Kingsman a pile of dull, exhausting, oh-so-serious woke tartary. Oh, my goodness. Vaughn is either in the midst of an identity crisis or allowed a bunch of producers and money men to castrate his own franchise. Have you ever seen the Kingsman series?
I have. The second one was not nearly as good as the first.
I still like the second one, but I get how you didn't like it as much as the first. But I did like the fact the villain in the second one, I think she was supposed to be based on Martha Stewart. I think that's who that was supposed to be.
Probably, yeah.
And it's just Vaughn is either in the midst of an identity crisis or allowed a bunch of producers money men to castrate his own franchise. Kingman has no idea what it wants to be, is overplotted beyond belief, and has the gall to be part of the Kingsman franchise and then bloat itself with pretension. The prequel is sold as an origin story about the founding of the Kingsmen, a secret organization of super spies unattached to any government, except Kingsman is not about that. Instead, it's about Duke Orlando Oxford, played by Ralph Fiennes, a rich English guy turned pacifist by personal tragedy who's determined to trick America into entering World War I. That's not a typo. Oxford is a pacifist who spends most of the movie scheming to get the United States into war. That's how confused this stinker is. It gets worse. Oxford teaches his son Conrad, Harris Dickinson, to be a ruthless fighting machine while using his privilege and position to ensure Conrad never uses those skills and escapes the draft. Even as his schemes push the United States in the war that will eventually kill some 150,000 American boys. Let's not forget, World War I took a lot of our people, too. Not as many as in Europe, I'm sure, but we lost a lot of men in that war. The whole movie is bipolar. In one scene, we're being lectured about privilege and colonialism. This from a franchise that gave us a princess who, well, you can read the rest on your own. And then in the next, Rasputin, Rhys Ifans is licking Oxford's leg. We have a black servant, Jijman Hunson, whose presence elevates everything, and he's subverted to Oxford. But then we have a female servant character, Gemma Ardington, who's an obnoxious mix of strident Karen and perfectly smug Mary Sue. Boys are so messy, she says, after saving the men again. The only thing in her butt is a 6-foot steel pole. She is beyond unappealing and awful. I actually like that actress, too, and I don't know what they've done to this. Anyway, it
Mhm.
goes on, but the long and the short of it is I haven't seen it, so I don't know if I even want to see it at this point. I felt that the Kingsman was safe because these used to be independently made movies, and then they were sold to 20th Century Fox to distribute. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So you can have independently movies that have large budgets, then they get sold to, like those Resident Evil movies. The old ones were made independently, and then they're sold to Sony to distribute. And it's interesting. I think they're actually considered German-produced movies, actually, even though they're in English. They're like in the German category, but. Yeah, I don't know. I like the Kingsman movies. I don't think I'll be checking this one out, at least not until.
And that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because this is what happens with all of these franchises. I like X franchise, but I don't think I'm going to be watching this movie. And that's exactly why these movies end up failing. Because if you don't have the fans of that franchise, you got nobody. You're not going to bring in a bunch of purple-haired weirdos who didn't go to see the movies in the first place.
Yeah.
And if that's the audience you're trying to appeal to, you know, you might as well just save your money and not make the film.
Oh, R. Fisher says, I got the pronunciation right the first time I quoted Mo with the Fieg, if I'm getting that right. If I'm wrong, if I got it wrong again, but I think that was right. Is this next article good news? What do you think?
Cameron thinks it is. I'm not so sure.
I am kind of curious what this means. Is this perhaps? I don't know. This isn't. I don't know. I'll point it bluntly. Could it be that this is supposed to take place in the original Batman '89 universe? Let's read the headline before I get there.
I don't know. It's a very, very mixed bag.
Michael Keaton to reprise Batman role in Batgirl. Interesting. I don't know how I feel about this. Let's continue because, frankly, Warner Brothers has a mixed track record with their DC superhero properties, to be mild about it. Michael Keaton has signed on to reprise his role as Batman in the upcoming superhero pick Batgirl. Deadline has confirmed he'll star in the latest feature from Warner Brothers and DC alongside Leslie Grace, J.K. Simmons, and Brendan Fraser. Is J.K. Simmons playing Commissioner Gordon because he was Commissioner Gordon in Justice League? So it's not the Commissioner Gordon from...
Isn't that's what I was getting at. It's kind of strange. It is not obviously it's not the Commissioner Gordon from the Tim Burton because he's passed now. But it is the Commissioner Gordon from the Snyderverse. And it's also not the Commissioner Gordon from the Sparkly Bat movie. So it's like, I know, right? It is a very mixed, confused bag.
We're going to make 5 different Batman movies and we'll see which one is popular and stick with that one. That's what this sounds like to me. Kind
of, but like I said, they're actually now combining at least 2 different franchises. They're mixing Snyderverse with Burtonverse, it looks like.
I don't know. This could end up being like a sleeper hit. Like maybe this is the one that will be the one good one they do.
That's what I said. I'm not sure. It could be or maybe not. I don't know.
Okay. Warner Brothers has no comment on the casting when contacted by Deadline, but the news comes following the announcement that Keaton would again don the cape for Ezra Miller's star of The Flash, which was destined to hit theaters November 4th, 2022. Now, is this going to be the Batman from that Flash movie, or is this
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm having
and this is nobody knows a fucking thing about this Flash film. I think it's finished, but I think there's also talk about reworking it, and I don't think they know what they want to do with their cinematic universe going forward. So
okay. Well,
I don't think that question could be easily answered.
Well, Batman's plot is being kept under wraps. It centers around Barbara Gordon Grace, the daughter of Gotham City Police Commissioner.
Wait, did you just say Barbara Gordon Grace?
No, that's the actress's name is Grace.
Yeah, Leslie Grace. Okay, yeah.
Leslie Grace. What?
I was going to say, is Barbara Gordon married in this universe?
I don't know. The daughter of Gotham. At least she's not Alfred's niece, right?
Right. Good point.
The daughter of Gotham City Police Commissioner Jim Gordon. Let me see. Adil El Arbi and Bij El Falah, Bad Boys for Life, are directing the film from a script by Christina Hodson. Well, at least they got directors that are known to do action movies, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
that'll be good. Keaton first portrayed billionaire Bruce Wayne and his Cape Crusader alter ego in Tim Burton's Batman 1989 film Batman. You don't say. Then reprising the role in Burton's 92. It's for the Zoomers out there. They haven't seen this stuff. Batman Returns. The Oscar-nominated actor can currently be seen in Danny Strong's opioid crisis miniseries Dope Sick for Hulu. Oh, I could watch that if I want.
Yeah.
Okay. And will soon appear in Columbia Pictures' Marvel pick Morbius, top line by Jared Leto. Is he playing the Vulture in Morbius, or is he playing a different character in Morbius? Or is the multiverse a version
I
where
don't
he's not
know.
the Vulture because he's in a multiverse version that's not from the MCU
I do not know.
Spider-Man universe?
I don't think there's been
Why
any
don't you answer my
confirmation.
questions when I ask you? Just confirm yes or no.
No.
You have okay. I don't. Are you getting confused by any of this?
No, I kind of know that there are
Keaton,
no answers out there. Yeah.
Keaton is rep by ICM Partners and Zifrin Brittenham. Okay. I like that name, last name,
So-
Brittenham. Okay.
Cameron does make the point that he says, for those of you who are skeptical of Adil and Bilal casting Leslie Grace as Batgirl, I urge you to watch her stunning performance in the musical In the Heights. She lights up the screen and has incredible charisma. Their other casting choices prove that Adil and Bilal are aiming to make the best movie they can rather than satisfy any woke agenda. They are both religious Muslims and don't share the cultural Marxist philosophies,
Okay.
which is thankfully on its way out in Hollywood. So that, at least, I could say, okay, I can appreciate that.
It would be nice if we could get a good Batman movie for
And
a change.
if that is the case, and it does, and again, like I said, if they're, and I'm sure that's him referring to the casting of J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, Leslie Grace, perfectly acceptable as a daughter for J.K. Simmons, a better choice than they might have made, and therefore I could kind of be okay with the idea of a younger Batgirl to an older Batman, and they never even insinuate that there could ever possibly be any kind of relationship between them because it never did happen and should never happen in the comics, is a good thing too. Okay.
Oh man, I forgot they went there.
Yeah. And
nothing's perfect. And they
I-
went there further in that Killing Joke animated movie. They only hinted,
Yeah.
and I figured at least on Batman, maybe they dated for a little bit and then it ended, which shouldn't happen anyway.
Never should have.
I never got the idea that it maybe went that far.
But
I don't know. But yeah.
But what I will say is that I actually prefer, and I've heard some other people kind of drawing the comparison to Batman Beyond. I would rather see this before there was any kind of Batman Beyond, right?
Well,
because
another thing they could do is maybe they could de-age Michael Keaton, have him playing a younger Batman, maybe not as young as he was in the Batman '89 movie.
Yeah,
but
only if they're going to be doing a couple of, like flashback scenes or something like that. I think if you're going to bother bringing in Michael Keaton, then he needs to play himself as he is at this age. And if he's playing Batman, he's probably playing more Bruce Wayne than he is Batman. He's probably not getting into the black rubber suit.
If Keaton is reprising Batman and Batgirl, then that means Barbara must be in her 60s and coping with hot flashes. I'm sorry, that's I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Troy, if Bruce Timm is involved, then Batgirl will knock the boots off with Bruce Wayne in some crazy fashion. Oh no, Bruce Timm. Yeah, I was confusing with Paul Dini. It was Bruce Timm that was into that. That was terrible. The Killing Joke animated movie. Did you see that?
No, I heard about it.
No. They had a film. I guess the Killing Joke was too short to make as a feature, so they added stuff onto it with Barbara Gordon, and that's where the stuff with her sleeping with Bruce Wayne or Batman comes from. And it's they didn't need to go there, and that wasn't actually part of the Killing Joke comic book anyway. So
And
they tacked that
and
on. And it's
just to be clear, there's no reason to believe Bruce Timm has anything to do with this. Looks like the writers are Christina Hodson.
all right.
Ooh. Okay, now this is not actual writing credit. This is just character credit. Carmine Infantino and Gardner Fox. These are for their contributions in creating the characters.
Just make a good movie. Make a good Batgirl movie. And I think Brendan Fraser, I do like him. He's going to play Firefly, I think, in this movie. So,
which is, I think, an odd choice. That's a kind of a deep dive, but I'm not hating it.
What, you don't like Firefly as a villain?
I don't hate him. It's a deep dive character. It's a kind of a surprise.
He's kind of one of the more, I'm going to put this like obscure. I told you there was this wonderful scene because he had been introduced on Batman the Animated Series, like the later series that came out. He was a villain in a couple episodes.
Yeah.
And then when they did the Justice League series, there's an episode where all the villains are breaking out of this prison. And there was a Superman villain named Volcana, I think that was her name, and she could like make fire. She was like a metahuman, could like make flames come out of her hands and stuff.
Yeah.
And Firefly is getting his suit on it, and he's trying to shoot off the superheroes or the security guards that are trying to put them breaking out, and then she comes along and just blasts them because she's a metahuman, can do so much more. And the words that come out of his mouth is, "I think I'm in love," because she's better at fire than he is.
And although I do appreciate what Cameron Pasha is saying, again, this is another example of hashtag what about all the gingers?
Well,
I mean. We're also Batgirl really. If you're going to do Barbara Gordon, she should be a redhead. If you're not doing a redhead, you are race swapping. That's all I'm going to say.
I, as a ginger myself, we're just becoming erased. I don't know what to say. One thing I always gave points on Smallville, for the most part, not always, but they did tend to cast actors that looked like the characters as opposed to having to go with established Hollywood types. Yeah. I don't know. I listen to me. I at this point, I just want something that isn't terrible. And we never even got a redheaded Batgirl back in the 90s when we had Alicia Silverstone playing her. So this is par for the course. It's
true.
I just want it to be a good movie. And maybe they'll have her dye her hair. I don't know. That weird Black Widow dye job where it's like copper, like a copper.
Yeah, that's.
And tan too, right? Because we redheads, we gingers tan real well.
Right, exactly.
That's okay.
You go from albino white to my God, my skin is burning off.
Pretty much, that's it. Yeah. Okay, but I am keeping my fingers crossed on this mainly because I'm not looking forward to the Pattinson Batman movie.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because I do like the director for that movie, Matt Reeves. He has done good stuff, and I think that the producers have screwed with him on the project. Maybe they've been able to fix it since then. I don't know. I've only heard rumors. We've always speculated on rumors with that. I have no idea what was going on behind the scenes, but it sounded like unprofessionalism going on, but we'll have to wait for it to come out before we know if it's good or bad, I suppose. I'm not looking forward to it, though. I have a bad feeling about the Batman. But this, I don't have as bad a feeling on. Maybe this will be good. Maybe this could be a sleeper hit. Maybe just make a good movie.
I mean,
that people want to see.
I think this one,
cool.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think they have nobody. There's nobody at the helm of the DC cinematic universe. So I honestly, it's like a crapshoot with each movie they put out.
I think they know it's a crapshoot and they're trying to see
which one will be successful and try to build on it.
Because like Joker was a big hit. That was like,
because it was never intended to be a DC heroes type story. It literally was just another story crammed into the characters. There's really no logical way to expand that
Yeah,
out.
I mean, it would be a little complicated. Granted, you could argue a lot of that is unreliable narrator in that movie too. You could have Joaquin Phoenix come back like in a regular Batman movie to play the Joker, though. I don't see why not. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of slayed it. I mean, he was like the heir to Heath Ledger in that part. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. But it's past the hour. I think this is the last. That's the last news story. So we had a full docket of news stories this week, considering it was leading up to Christmas.
Yep.
But yeah. So what you got going on this week?
Well, my Friday stream is going to be an hour early this week because I definitely want to get some time in to interview Dino of the Late Late Horror Show. So I will spend 1 hour with him, and then he'll shuffle off to start his own stream, and then I'll just.
You can have like a drop in, drop out stream like you've done in the past.
Absolutely.
Maybe? Why not? So like maybe I could pop in and then Wolf 10 maybe later. So I don't know. I don't, like I said, I will try to.
And it is New Year's Eve, so all the more reason that it should probably be, if you can make it and stop by. You want to join the stream, great. Otherwise, I totally understand. You don't love me. That's okay.
Oh, it's people got obligations, family. You're Italian. You understand family, right?
Hey, if I'm not part of your family, I understand. You don't love me.
I love you.
Well, I know you're going to be there no matter what.
Netter's a great co-host. Netter's a great co-host.
Yes, she is. I agree with you. I absolutely agree.
She has her own stream too. In fact, does she have a stream coming up this week, or was it oh no, she did Charlie Brown.
No, she just did Charlie Brown. So Saturdays.
I should know I was on it. So okay.
Right, exactly. Saturday's rewatch is going to be over on Big Al's stream, and I don't remember what movie it is.
It's going to be Poseidon.
Oh, the Poseidon Adventure. Yeah.
Oh,
and not one that immediately jumps out as a New Year's type of movie, but technically it is. Yeah.
I probably can't make it. I would love to be on for all the disasters. I'm definitely going to be on for the Swarm at the end of the month, but
there you
go.
We'll
see.
There you go.
But they're all good. Oh, let me tell you something. I know there's looked at disaster movies. They're like horror movies. You're waiting for the next person to get knocked off in those movies. Towering Inferno is terrifying in some scenes.
Yup. Yup.
Like characters you're expecting they're going to make it. And that guy's a crispy critter right now.
Yep.
Why?
Because that's what happens in a situation like that.
I'm going to look at the Batgirl thing later. Yeah, it might be good. You never know.
Do you know what's going on Wednesday?
Don't know yet because Birdman apparently still is not feeling so well. I keep wondering if he got the thing that's, I don't know, that sounds like a transformer. I don't know. We'll see. But we may or may not be on Wednesday, and it may or may not be Die Hard 2 or Home Alone 2. So, boom. If Daniel listens to this later on, you can add it in the comments.
There is a chance that Wednesday stream is going to be a rewatch of Contagion. I'm joking.
Does that have a good score? It's funny.
I have no idea.
I had cousins visiting right before like our pandemic hit in full swing, and I showed them Contagion as kind of a joke. And Contagion was actually somewhat accurate as to what sort of happens in this sort of scenario, except it seemed like the scientists in that movie were more competent than the ones we have.
Yeah,
in the real world.
exactly. Yeah. So it was fiction.
Yes. And we have yet another bot, so I think this is a good place to end the stream.
For crying out loud!
We're probably
kick the bot first, quick.
Maybe we're one of the few people actually streaming on YouTube right now. I don't know, because this is a weird time. It's holiday season.
It could be.
Let me go ahead and hide.
I think I got it.
Remove. Okay, I think we both got it at the same time. So, goodbye. Don't come back.
Oh, for crying out loud! Okay, it looks like I beat you to it by a fraction of a second.
They keep looking like they're Russian names because of the spelling, or Ukrainian, and it's
probably
that's not what it is. I don't think that's what it is. But all right,
it could just be random names too. That's just it.
Well,
just
thank you everybody for spending some time with us.
Are we all like racing to try and delete the person?
Yes, it's like pull, shoot.
Oh, thank you, Auditor Dread. Thank you for the compliment. Oh, great stream. But we'll be back next week. I don't know how many news stories there'll be, but we'll definitely be doing our winner and loser of 2021 and our wild prediction for 2022. I got a good one that Troy will shoot down and say, no way. And I think it's going to happen. But we'll see. And he'll have one for me too, I imagine. Okay, so it's pretty interesting. All right, so catch you next week, y'all.
Take care. Bye-bye.